Welcome back. I've got an update for you on the knuckle cracking situation. I've got 3 bits of information for you. The first one is that I made a request under the Freedom of Information Act to DVSA to find out how many of these cracking issues have actually been reported, both on the L405 and the L494, the Range Rover Sport. First of all, what happened following my first video up here? Let's have a look at some of the feedback I got. I'm going to use the handy bench seat on the Range Rover. I've had to print some of these out because they're quite detailed. Firstly, Steve. Hi, a few pics of my front near side and offside knuckles, thankfully detected after watching your video and before any incident. These pictures from Steve are pretty shocking. Both of his knuckles had cracks that were probably just about to let go. So he was really glad to watch the video or see the video, and I'm really glad that he actually bothered to have a look under his car. After Steve, I got an email from John. John has got a 2014 car and it's just showing signs of cracking. John took his car to a dealer and they confirmed, yeah, they both needed changing. James in the States had the same issue, not the UK, but I was really grateful for his input. Unfortunately, if you're cruising along in your L405 and you haven't checked your knuckles, what happened to the person that contacted me next could happen to you. So this is what Aziz's car looked like whilst he was cruising the streets of London. The thing collapsed and he was obviously completely surprised by the whole situation. So Aziz had to have his car recovered and changed. There are still cars out there with this issue. If you are looking at one of these cars, or if you own one of these cars, or maybe if you're selling one of these cars, it may be worth checking the knuckles first. What's happened to my knuckle after it was replaced? You may remember that I bought this car with a full Land Rover extended warranty, which did eventually pay out under the extended warranty. Otherwise, I would have had to cover the cost because it was not included in the recall range, either period 1 or period 2. A little bit more on that later. So what happens if you report this to the DVSA and you happen to have kept the knuckle that gets changed, which is the situation that I had? DVSA will contact Jaguar Land Rover, and if you still have kept your knuckle, then Jaguar Land Rover will probably have to do something about it. And this is where I introduce to you the Jaguar Land Rover External Investigations Department. Obviously, if you Google that, you won't find out much about the Jaguar Land Rover External Investigations Department, but I did find a chap on LinkedIn, and his blurb says that the External Investigations Department is responsible for responding to government inquiries. So that suggests to me that JLR will probably only do something about this issue if they hear directly from the DVSA. They will, of course, use the information they get from their dealer network as well. But critically, to getting the range of vehicles included in the recall extended, what we all need to do is inspect our cars, and if there is a crack, to report it to DVSA. And only then will they do something about it. So my knuckle was collected at the beginning of this week. It's gone off to the External Investigations Department to be externally investigated to a point of destruction. What I will find out is the outcome of that investigation to see if JLR think there's a problem with the knuckle or whether it's just like acceptable. Still, I will let you know what I find out when that happens. Now then, as the DVSA is a public body, you can make a request under the Freedom of Information Act to give you data. The question I asked was, can you give me information about L405s and L494s which have had broken knuckles? Can you also provide the model year of the vehicle? They said no, they couldn't do that, which was odd, as the form I completed to send my serious safety defect into the DVSA had all that information on it. I said, well, if you can't provide that, can you just provide me with the number of L404s and L494s, so Range Rover Full Fat and Range Rover Sports that have been affected? They said, yes, we can. And they also provided me the chassis numbers, which was great because then I could work out how many vehicles were included in the recall periods, both period 1 and period 2. I'll put up on the screen the chassis number ranges for those recall periods. So if you, after this video, go and check your vehicle and then go and look at the chassis number, which the easiest place to find it is on the windscreen, passenger side at the bottom, and you have a crack and it's within this chassis number period, then you're fine. Range Rover or Land Rover will change it for you. So, how many cases do you think have been raised to DVSA by members of the public like me? 100, 200, 300? If you believe the internet, like every 405 or 494 is falling apart. But what really surprised me is the total number of cases reported to DVSA for the L405 are 35. Only 35 cases of cracked knuckles have been reported to DVSA between December 2019 and the 16th of the 1st, 2025. Those stats, 35, are only incidents where the cases have been resolved. So mine is not on this list because the case is still open, so it hasn't yet been resolved. But what's equally interesting, so 35 L405s and only 6 Range Rover Sports, the L494, have been reported as having cracked knuckles to DVSA. So either this is a case of the internet blowing up an issue, a storm in a teacup, or it's just people getting so hacked off having bought one of these that they haven't reported it once they found a cracked knuckle to DVSA. Just a bit of information about the 2 recall periods. 17 of these 35 cases of the 405 fall within the period 1 recall, and only 1 falls within the period 2 recall range. I suspect there are significantly more cracked knuckles than this. I can't believe I was that unlucky to buy a well-maintained car and to find it's got a cracked knuckle, to then only discover that there are only 35 reported cases. That's the information that hopefully I'm bringing fresh to this conversation. According to the DVSA, only 35 reported cases that have been resolved. There could be 150 that are reported that are not yet resolved. That we don't know. I could find that out, but only after a month, 2 months of requesting the same information again, which I can do. To wrap up, what can you do if you own a 405, which you may have had for ages, you may love, you may have been driving it miles and miles and miles. It may just be about to lose its front wheel. So what you can do is to jack it up to full height, have a quick look around top of the suspension knuckle. If the gap that you're looking at appears to be uneven, it's probably cracked. It's still worth, because one of the people that sent me photographs, his gap looked fine, but when he looked around it, he saw a very, very faint start of a hairline crack. So just look at it, because although these things do not seem to let go at speed, they seem to let go if you hit a pothole or mount a curb or there's a sudden shock at slow speed. When they go, they will go, and you will lose control of the car. Inspect it, photograph it, report it to the DVSA and also to Jaguar Land Rover. I hope for your sake it's time worth spent. I know a number of people who have contacted me said thank you, which makes my time worthwhile in creating these videos and helping us all to enjoy these cars but to drive them safely. Thank you for joining me. If you found this useful, please do subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you again soon.